Is it a good idea to pair the 12GB RTX 3060 with the 1440p monitor to play the latest games in 2025? Let's find out. To test this, I paired the Asus Dual RTX 3060 with the Ryzen 5 7600X CPU as part of the Quad PC build powered by MSI. And we'll be experiencing the games today on my favorite 1440p monitor. This is 360Hz QD OLED MSI 271QRX. If you are interested in any of the products featured in this video, you can find them on Amazon at the links in the description below. Meet the OBS Bot Tiny 2 Lite, an AI-powered 4K webcam that transforms the way you connect. It captures every detail in crisp Ultra HD and uses advanced noise-canceling microphones to ensure your voice comes through loud and clear. Thanks to AI tracking with auto zoom, you'll always stay in frame, even if you move around. Need to switch angles fast? Preset Modes lets you define your preferred positions and settings with a single click. Plus, Gesture Control 2.0 makes it easy to start or stop tracking. No need to fiddle with buttons mid-call. The built-in stand and 2-axis gimbal guarantee a stable setup anywhere, while Sleep Mode 2.0 protects your privacy with a single tap. Ready to elevate your video calls, online classes, or live streams? Discover the productivity, convenience, and stunning video quality of the OBS Bot Tiny 2 Lite, the perfect webcam upgrade for professional-looking results. Purchase yours now at the link in the description below. Shall we start with Path of Exile 2? We are at native 1440p using NVIDIA DLAA. All the graphics settings are absolutely maxed out. Even shadow and GI quality is set to ultra. Dynamic culling as well as dynamic resolution are off. The RTX 3060 is not good enough to play this game at native 1440p resolution because in a static scene like this one here, we're getting only 30 FPS. And as soon as we start casting spells, the FPS will drop to around 20-ish. To get to our 60 FPS target, we should lower the shadow and GI quality, let's set it to high, and we'll have to use DLSS upscaling to help us out with the performance as well. Let's set it to quality. Quality DLSS looks just as good to my eyes on the 27-inch 1440p display compared to native. So yeah, pretty much the same picture quality, so there is no reason not to use it. And just like that, our FPS went from 30 to 80 plus, 82, 83 FPS, nice. But that doesn't mean that it's going to be working well when we enter a massive combat scene. Let's gather some enemies. I think that is enough. We're already at 77 FPS. And let's start casting magic. Yes, 47 FPS, 46 was the lowest number I've seen. Even this graphics settings configuration doesn't guarantee 60 plus FPS at all times. Since shadow and global illumination is the most expensive setting to run, let's lower it a little bit more, set it to low, and see what the performance is like. It's a little bit better, but pretty much the same. As soon as we enter combat, we're getting dips to around 60-ish. And if we gather a lot of enemies and start casting more magic, then let's see, 57 FPS. Yeah, we're still dipping below 60 from time to time. This is partially because this game is not very optimized, because without using the skills, the FPS is high. But as soon as we start using skills, FPS drops significantly. 69, nice. But this is still a playable and enjoyable experience in my opinion. It's not a huge deal if we drop to around 50-ish FPS from time to time, especially if we can just cap FPS at 60, then the smoothness will be okay because the fluctuations will not be as high as this, because going from like 90 plus FPS to 50 plus, yeah, it's not very smooth because of the fluctuation. But if we're going from 60 to 50, you won't feel it. Another thing we could do is lower the resolution upscaling quality a little bit more. Let's set it to balanced. This introduces a noticeable reduction in image quality when we look at finer details such as grass or leaves. Yeah, that's why I prefer keeping DLSS on quality mode when using a 1440p monitor. But you can't argue with that FPS increase. Take a look at that, 100 plus FPS. Nice. And even during combat, let's see if we can stay above 60 FPS. Yeah, 61 was the lowest number I've seen. So this is good. For the smoothest experience, we could cap our FPS at 60. I'm using RTSS to do that in this particular case. This way, when we roam around, our GPU power usage is actually a little bit lower than usual, 130-ish. And once we enter combat, it will spike up to 150 and even higher. But you can save a lot of energy like this, because you're not always in combat constantly. And also the experience will feel smoother because there won't be such a drastic change in FPS. Something from like 100 plus to 60. There's a huge change in FPS that you will definitely feel. Let's go back to DLSS quality using shadows and GI low setting. Everything else is maxed out. And yeah, indeed, we can stay at 60 FPS consistently pretty much all of the time. But as soon as we enter combat, our FPS will drop below 60, 49. I've seen just then. So yeah, it's not a completely ideal experience, but this is still pretty good because we are getting good image quality. We are not using DLSS balanced. This is quality DLSS. It's just nicer in terms of visuals. But honestly, even DLSS balanced looks pretty good. I don't mind playing the game using DLSS balanced on the 27-inch 1440p monitor, considering that we're using a budget-friendly RTX 3060, not some high-end GPU. Indiana Jones and the Great Circle is the perfect example of why it is best to own the 12GB RTX 3060 instead of the 8GB RTX 4060, even though the latter graphics card is more powerful. It is purely because the 12GB memory buffer allows the RTX 3060 to use ultra graphics quality preset at 1440p resolution, while the 8GB RTX 4060 would be limited to using low graphics quality preset, simply because 8GB of memory is not enough to handle anything higher than that. Surprisingly, even at native 1440p resolution, we are getting 40 plus FPS in this game. This game utilizes ray tracing by default. That's the hardware ray tracing we're talking about here. As you can see, we are utilizing 10GB of video memory, only 2GB remaining. That's what I was talking about. Playing this game with an 8GB graphics card is pretty much impossible, because low graphics quality preset doesn't look as nice as Ultra. By the way, this is one of the most graphically demanding scenes in the game, the jungle, and yet we're getting a playable experience. While this is a perfectly fine experience in my opinion, 40 plus FPS is okay, but we're looking for something a little bit more smooth. So 50 plus or even 60 plus is preferred. Let's go ahead and utilize DLSS resolution upscaling, set to quality mode to boost our FPS. There we go, above 50 FPS, 56, 57, and in more demanding scenes, we'll drop to around 53, I believe. Hold on, let's see. Now we're still at 57, 56, oh, 55 briefly just then. I think over here should be one of the most demanding areas. Yeah, I've seen 53 briefly, but you see, we're staying well above 50 FPS, and this is perfectly fine. Because in other scenes, we'll be getting well above 80 and even sometimes 90 plus FPS. Yeah, this is a perfectly good experience. 1440p resolution in a game that uses ray tracing by default. Although this is just ray tracing for global illumination, none of that full ray tracing. And we could always use a lower graphics quality preset, for example high, to boost FPS, and we still can use a higher texture pool size. Let's set it to very ultra because we can. 12 gigabytes of memory is enough to do that. This way it is possible to stay above 60 even in the most graphically demanding levels in the game. 66, 60, oh, 69 FPS, nice. And the game looks absolutely gorgeous on the 1440p 27-inch display, especially if it's the QD OLED like the one in front of me right now. Yeah, marvelous. And while we are at it, why not try full ray tracing? Let's set it to medium, and let's lower the texture pool size a little bit, just to give that ray tracing a little bit more room in terms of memory. And I think we'll have to use DLSS balanced to make it somewhat playable. We're getting a console-like experience, 30 FPS, with minor dips to 29, 28. You can still kind of appreciate ray tracing. The shadows are much higher quality on medium preset, but we're still not getting all of the features because there's also high and the proper full ray tracing setting still available, but that's not gonna work on the RTX 3060 because it's just too weak to handle that. Still, out of curiosity, why not use it? Full RT. 17 FPS. Yeah, even though we are using DLSS balanced, the performance is still quite sad. It's a slideshow at this point. But if we stand still, at least we can see what full ray tracing is all about. The lighting looks realistic, but the FPS is not good enough to actually enjoy it. Lastly, let's check out Stalker 2. We are at native 1440p resolution, field of view 100, epic graphics quality preset, no DLSS, NVIDIA DLAA enabled. In contrast to Indiana Jones, this is a GPU-heavy game that doesn't utilize that much video memory. As you can see, we are staying below 8 gigabytes of memory. So this is one of those games where the RTX 4060 would have been a better option. So yeah, what do I say about the RTX 3060 versus 4060? Both GPUs suck in 2025 in one way or another. It's just like different games, different story, because in some games the RTX 4060 is preferred, and in other games the 3060 is very much preferred, because otherwise what we can do is just play on low graphics settings using the 8GB 4060. That is pathetic. Shall we see if the resolution upscaling can help? Let's select DLSS balanced right away. It certainly improves the performance situation, but we're still nowhere near 60 FPS. That is very much preferred when playing this game, because this is a first-person shooter. Getting dips below 40 FPS is not really pleasant in this game. Also, I would like to point out that lower DLSS qualities don't work well in this particular game. Even DLSS balanced at 1440p introduces a lot of visual issues like ghosting and other artifacts, making the overall experience unpleasant, and that is why it is best to not use DLSS to boost our performance, but instead lower the graphics quality. Let's select high graphics quality preset and DLSS. Hold on a second, let me just get there. Yeah, DLSS quality. DLSS quality looks okay in this game. Unfortunately, in this game, lowering graphics quality doesn't provide a huge FPS increase like in some other games. Yeah, we are still at 40 plus FPS using high preset and DLSS quality. Not good enough. Let's lower it to medium. By the way, I should really mention that we're still using DLSS 3 in this game, not DLSS 4. DLSS 4 is coming later, and I'm definitely going to check it out. It will be in this game, so I'll be very much interested in checking out if it will resolve some of those visual issues, especially at lower DLSS qualities. Maybe then it will be viable to use DLSS balanced. We'll see. In the meantime, we're getting barely 50 FPS using medium graphics quality preset and DLSS set to quality mode. Yeah, not great. So it means that we'll probably have to use low graphics quality preset to actually enjoy this game at 60 FPS-ish. Hopefully, who knows? Maybe it won't be enough. Just to be clear, this is already playable, in my opinion. 40 plus FPS to 50-ish. I'm pretty sure that some of you will be very happy with this performance. Personally, I do prefer 60 FPS consistently in games like this. That's why we have to keep lowering those settings. We are at the bottom of the barrel right now. Low graphics quality preset. DLSS is still set to quality mode. Finally, we are barely getting 60 plus FPS. It's 61, 60, and it drops to 57, 55, 54 was the lowest number I've seen. 53, wow, okay. So even using the lowest graphics quality preset and getting DLSS to help us out is still not enough to achieve a consistent 60 plus FPS experience. Incredible. I think this game needs some more optimization, definitely, because honestly, it's got no business looking like this and showing us this kind of FPS. I just have to know where is that limit where we are going to hit that 60 FPS. So let's lower DLSS to balanced. Is it enough not to drop below 60? No, it is not. I've seen 58, 59. We're still getting dips below 60. That's crazy. And we are not CPU limited because our GPU load is at 99 consistently. That pretty much means that it is fully loaded. Okay, DLSS performance mode. Let's go. Finally, a consistent 60 plus FPS experience. But the picture took quite a massive hit in terms of quality. Yeah, pixelization is the real thing here. It is rampant all over the place. All these small details are lost. Grass, branches, everything is pixelated, shimmering, ghosting, horrible. And look at that reflection. It is just flickering away. And there's flickering on the gun as well. Oh my. There's just so much noise and artifacts. This is a horrible experience. I do not want to play this game like this. Yeah. I'd definitely just shelf it until I could get a better GPU if I had to use the RTX 3060. This is just not a good experience. This is not the way this game should be played. In my opinion, the 12GB RTX 3060 will remain a relevant GPU in 2025. However, that is with caveats. There will be more games like Stalker 2 in 2025 and beyond, which means that the 3060 won't be able to deliver a good, pleasant experience in every game. But Indiana Jones is a great example of a beautiful looking game that still plays very well, even using ultra graphics quality preset on the RTX 3060, despite the fact that it utilizes ray tracing by default. I'll definitely revisit this graphics card in more games throughout 2025 and beyond, so make sure to subscribe for that. If you enjoyed this video, then don't forget to reward my work with a like, that helps out a lot. And let me know, what do you think about this setup? If you are interested in any of the products featured in this video, you can find them on Amazon at the links in the description below. It was I, Vadim. Until next time.